Is it fun when you take a lead in your very first offensive play every game? This is Georgia Tech in the opener against Western Carolina. The defense forces a fumble, so first and goal at the 5. Your first offensive play of the season. Orwin Smith just walks in, and it was a pretty routine, if not overly impressive win. Then against Middle Tennessee on the road. First offensive play, Tevin Washington with the play action. They roll out Tony Zeman. I mean, he's wide open walking to the end zone. Again, they score on their first play. Next week against Kansas, they're pinned back deep at their own 5-yard line. Pretty routine play. This is Smith just taking the handoff. Great downfield blocking. Trevor, 95-yard touchdown. Every opening play, a touchdown. Amazing.
And when they break into open space, it's a piece of cake.
And the home of the Yellow Jackets is Bobby Dodd Stadium, right near downtown Atlanta, and that's where the DirecTV Mobile Studio is hanging out as we welcome in the coach of the Yellow Jackets, who are off to play a road game against NC State this week, Paul Johnson. Paul, let's open with your opening play success. That's the kind of fast start that any coach would envy. What's behind that instant success you guys have had, the very first play?
Well, I think it's like anything. I have to give our players a lot of credit for going out and executing. First game, we were fortunate. We got a turnover and had the ball on the 5-yard line, so we ran a little toss for a score. And next game, we had a pretty good matchup. We felt like on a back out of a linebacker on a wheel route. And the third game was just a basic counter play that Orwin Smith took 95 yards for a touchdown. So 3 different plays, but pretty good execution by our guys.
Paul, what measure of satisfaction do you get by being almost every opposing defense's least favorite offense to face? Whether or not you guys are ripping them up or not, they're not having any fun out there, and that tends to show up. Does that bring a smile to your face?
Well, I think the execution part of our guys brings a smile to my face. And, you know, we're only a third of the way through the season, so hopefully we can keep it going. But it's a fun offense to coach. I think you can do a lot of different things out of it. And we get our guys in space a lot, so they have fun doing it.
Do you seem to enjoy the contrarian role, though, doing an offense where there's so many skeptics this can't work, and it kind of seems like it's us against everybody else, because you are a very unique way of approaching offensive football these days?
Well, it's different, no question, and you know, I think you get some form of satisfaction when people say that it won't work. You know, we've been doing this for a long time on offense, and it's like anything else. If you execute and do it the right way, it's going to work as well as anything.
It works well when your quarterback plays well, and Tevin Washington certainly has been doing that. Talk about his development. He's a guy that's making the decisions and the runs, but also you're averaging 30 yards per completion, so he's throwing the ball very effectively as well.
Well, he's been very efficient. I think Tevin has a good understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. He's done a good job of giving guys the opportunity to make plays in the passing game. And when you can run the ball, play action ends up being pretty good for you. So this year he's hit a lot of the big play passes, and you know, he's helped us to have success so far.
I know you're not one to jump up and down about a 4-0 start, but what are the capabilities of this team in a conference which seems pretty wide open?
Well, I think you just have to take it one game at a time. I know that's a cliche, but that's kind of what we're trying to do. Nobody thought we were going to be very good this year, and so we've kind of played a little bit with a chip on our shoulder, and we need to keep that going. Certainly, this will be our first road test in league play on Saturday, so that's a game that we've got all our focus on right now.
Chip on the shoulder can be a very useful thing, but people certainly are starting to take notice of the Yellow Jackets. Paul, best of luck. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you don't get crazy about stats, but it is the first 4-0 start since the year that Georgia Tech got a piece of the national championship. Key thing to remember going forward in the Coastal Division is that the Hokies have to come to Atlanta, so no visit to Lane Stadium for Georgia Tech, and games like the road games at NC State, which you're supposed to win, do become important, but big things possible for a team that nobody really thought was going to do all that much this season.
And what impresses me is not the yards. You can break into open space against an inferior defense, break off an 80-yard untouched run. Tell it to the track coach. That doesn't impress me.
It doesn't?
What impresses me is when you play a game like last week against North Carolina, where you've got a really legitimate defense, and now you don't just score by breaking off 80-yard runs, 60-yard runs, but rather you sustain drives. And Georgia Tech proved against North Carolina that they could sustain drives. They had 4 scoring drives of 9 to 13 plays. So they had the patience, the level of execution, the ability to avoid mistakes for long periods of time in the face of a good defense. That impresses me far more than going against somebody that's inferior and going off to the races.
Oh, yeah, but I like an 80-yard run as much as the next guy. You saw that Carolina defense, which is loaded with talent. I mean, you got players that are going to play in the NFL. They didn't want to play defense in the second half.
No.
Eventually, you could see those long drives are having a mental effect on them as well.
Well, sure it does. I mean, if you break an 80-yard run, you're a defender, it's like, oh, well, yeah, somebody messed up, we'll do bad. But if they're pounding you in the face and driving the ball that way and you can't stop that, that has an effect on your psyche.
So I think we think the Jackets can take care of business on the road this week, but who should be on Upset Watch presented by AT&T?